Welcome into Bruins Beat, live Bruins Beat here on a Monday. What a way to start the week and end the year. Live Bruins Beat. That's what the people want. We're presented by PrizePicks. Use that promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. We're also presented by CLNS Media. Make sure go subscribe to Bruins Rinkside on YouTube. Lots of great stuff there. We do these all the time now live. And of course, make sure to go, if you don't like looking at us and you just want to listen, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, wherever you get your podcasts from. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Baranovsky. Conor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. Damn right, Robert. We're rolling. We're rolling. I like this, JMG Gillis. Happy holidays, fellas. I'm waiting on the Danton Heinen waiver news. I love that.
I was bracing for it at 2:00. I will say.
Thought it was coming. Hasn't not happening. Doesn't seem to be happening. I got good news and bad news, Conor.
What's that?
The bad news is the Bruins have lost 6 of 7.
Yeah, it's not great.
The good news, Conor, is they've lost 6 of 7.
All right. Well, I want to say, everyone, I really appreciate it. I hope you guys all have a very healthy and happy start to the new year. But I'm gonna see you guys later. All right.
Solo pod. Yeah, bye, Conor.
See you guys.
I don't know how I feel about Conor leaving.
That's
the only
really testing you. You're testing your luck here, dude.
It's the only positive to go off of. Not many positives as of late. But that game against the Sabres on Saturday night, 4-1, just got away from them. What do you make of them right now going out on this trip out west?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a gut check time for this group, right? I think you've seen a couple of times throughout this year where, we've hit inflection points where we're determining, I think, us just watching this team, like, where's this team going, right? Like, you see that, the 6 or 7 game losing streak they had. I'm not doing it. Where they lose those games early on in the year, you get blown at home by Anaheim, right? You let all these third period leads slip away. And after that game, and it was still October, right? Morgan Geekie was talking about, like, we have to decide right now where this season's going. Like, what are we getting out of this year? And it felt like that was an inflection point. And what happened? The Bruins responded, right? They reeled off a lot of wins. They remained competitive, even when they didn't have guys like David Pastrnak and McAvoy. They stuck with it. They treaded water, and you thought that this was going to be a team that, to your point, Evan, like, they weren't going to, like, surge to the top of the Atlantic, I don't think, but looked like a team that was going, throughout the year to respond to adversity, fight back, stay in the mix, and be a competitive, fun team to watch. And if that's even a group that doesn't make the playoffs, but they're competitive and they ferry you through another season as you start restocking your system, I think Bruins fans would take that, right? But what you've seen over this last couple of games is a group that just seems to be out of gas, right? It feels like they're running on fumes. They're not playing to their strength. They're letting games get away from them, and they haven't really been competitive. Like, good start in Buffalo, right? Against a team that has now won, 7 in a row. That second period was like a mess. They were not competitive. They weren't putting pucks on net. They weren't in the offensive zone. They couldn't outskate Buffalo. They just looked like completely listless out there. And that, I think, is what the concerning thing is this team, when you look at the way they're built, the horses they have or lack of horses they have across their lineup, and I think maybe the taxing way they play, whether it's taking all those penalties, blocking all those shots, playing such a physical game, is that now leading to them at this point, running on fumes? Which, if that's the case now, and we're still in December, we're not in 2026 just yet, that's very concerning. So it's going to be key to see how they can go through this stretch here and how they respond. Because if they end this road trip 1-3-1, 0-4, losing 4 games, what have you, then you're in a deeper conversation. We start having those uncomfortable conversations, Evan, of, was the start of the year fool's gold, or maybe it's just this team is regressing back to what we feared they could be, which is a team that might be gunning for more of a top 10 pick than meaningful hockey in March and April.
So I still think they're on track to be where we kind of had them, which is like somewhere in the middle. Like, I still think they are gonna snap out of this and either have a good trip here or win, 6 of 10 or something, and kind of just stay in the mix. But there's a lot of concerning trends here that have popped up. It's not like even that losing streak to open the year after the 3 games. It was like they were 1-goal games. They were in everything. They fought back, and it was like, all right, they're not winning, but there's encouraging signs. They're getting blown out, and you're seeing like a lot of concerning trends from last year start to rear their ugly heads, where it's like you give up a goal, and then you give up 2 or 3 in the next couple minutes, and it just steamrolls. And that's where you look at the goaltending, right? Like the Swayman and Korpisalo, especially Korpisalo, have really struggled. Swayman over the last couple weeks, Korpisalo really. I was looking, he's a sub 900 save percentage in November and December, and he's played 8 total starts. Like 8 total starts in those 2 months, and he's been that bad. So
and you know what the worst part of though is, Evan? I think like there's a legitimate, I think we even talked about this last week with Korpisalo. Like I knew that was coming. But there was a legitimate conversation last week, right? Of like, are the Bruins going to move on from Korpisalo? Like he's not giving you nearly enough in the backup role, and I think that's still on the table. I don't think he was like the issue in that game against Buffalo. They were just completely outclassed in that game, and if that's the case, right, where you can point to 1 or 2 things that's been, hurting this team, the backup goaltending, some aggression with scoring, what have you. They just across the board just did not have any juice at all on whatever day it was, Saturday, right? Against Buffalo. So that I think is the concerning thing.
Yeah, that's what's tough with that. And then again, like defensively, they haven't been great. That's been a thorn in their side all year. They're 5th in the league in goals against. 5th worst, not 5th best. 5th worst. Like if you told me before the start of the year, if you said that the Bruins were going to be bottom 5 in the league in goals against, you'd be like, damn, Kevin McKenna looks nice on a Bruins jersey. Like that would be the automatic thought.
Sounds like a kid from the South Shore.
That's right. He's from Hingham. But I they've been saved by great goaltending from Swayman for a lot of the year, and they've been saved by an offense that's sort of overachieved. Now that offense has cooled off a little bit. The goaltending hasn't gotten better, and the defense has been around as bad, and you're starting to see it. And so I do want to stay consistent with, like, I think this team is what they are, which is around a 500 team, and they're going to have their ebbs and flows. They have pretty big ebbs and pretty big flows. But there's part of me that thinks might be a trend. It might be a tell. And this is why this trip out west is huge. I feel like I've said this before every road trip, before every stretch of games this year. This does feel make or break, though. You've lost 6 of 7, and you're going out west. Right? Never an easy trip, but Calgary, I know they played a little bit better of late, but that's still a bottom 5 team.
It's still not a good team.
Yeah, Vancouver is not good. They are, I think, number 1 right now in getting the number 1 pick. Seattle
also just healthy scratched Jake DeBrusk.
I saw that. Crazy. What's going on with that? Like I saw it on Twitter and I just kind of laughed and scrolled by it. But yeah, holy crap. Then you have Edmonton, which Edmonton is always a tough team to play against. But okay. Vancouver, Calgary,
and Seattle. Seattle sucks too. Like that has been well established on this podcast, Evan.
We're an
anti team. Yeah.
Yes, we're an anti-Seattle Kraken podcast. But like that's the thing where it's like if they go out there and they right the ship and they come away with like wins in 3 of 4 or something, like all right, okay, it's more of what we thought. Doesn't mean they're world beaters, but okay, they've righted the ship. If they go out there and they lay an egg tonight in Calgary, and they have a rough rest of the trip, I don't know how you reroute yourself back into contention. Like I feel like if you go out and stink on this trip, you're a seller at the deadline. Like no question, seller at the deadline. Yes, yeah, Conor Ryan loves the Seattle Kraken. People get that trend.
Well established.
Hashtags are dead, but get that trending.
Yes. It's a good job when like you can be Ron Francis and just build a bum ass shit ass roster and make everyone who's excited about hockey in the PNW miserable because you make an uninspiring team and you get promoted. Good business model over there. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, apparently this is true. Jake DeBrusk stayed out late at a Pokemon card convention. Couldn't lay off the deals. God.
Hey, can't blame him.
Everybody has a vice. Everybody has a vice.
But yeah, no, I agree, right? Like, I think we're in the same boat, Evan, right? Where I don't think we're being super declarative yet of like, all right, I guess we are going to start talking about Tynan Lawrence and Keaton Verhoff and all those kind of guys. We're not there yet, but I think that can change if this team lays an egg against Calgary or let points against, Seattle and Vancouver slip through their grasp, right? If they don't start banking points now where, Buffalo's ahead of them in the standings, and even if everyone's bunched together, you all of a sudden you're not leapfrogging one or two teams. You got 4 or 5 teams that are playing well in front of you, and you start doing the math. You start looking at all those points that you've let slip away because you haven't gone to overtime, for most of this year. That's going to start to come back and bite you, right? So, I'm not there yet as far as doom and gloom. You want to see this team respond, and I think as a whole they've done that this year, but that can change if they lose going forward.
It can. And even today at morning skate in Calgary, they've switched. Marco Sturm's gone back to those lines that were working when Pastrnak was out. Steves is back on the top line. David Pastrnak is back as a third liner. Sorry, David Pastrnak. We have Alex Steves. Sorry, we're good. We're good here. We got Alex Steves. By the way, I couldn't get enough of the Colin Coward mentioned in that Fox broadcast yesterday. You got like the big three, got Portnoy, Coward, and then Nick Wright. What a day. Oh my God.
I was rattled watching that ad. That was like the same like level as like when the BJ's ad comes on. Like I was like, was stood in silence. Like, what the hell was that? That it was just on my TV.
Yeah. That's a wild lineup. It's like the Ric Flair commercials. Like he's in every commercial now. Like I just, I'm sick of it.
Do you remember the old days when who is it? Jim Martin, who used to be the voice of the TD Garden legend, right? Everyone knows that like booming voice. When he retired, and like give all credit, everyone like Jake, everyone who's taken over him rocks as well. But when it first happened, everyone's getting used to just a new voice up there. I remember someone tweeted, I think it was Ty, and they were like, if Jim's not there, who's gonna do the woo? I'm like, do you think Jim Martin does that? Like, guys, it's Ric Flair sound effect. That's not Jim Martin. Like
even when he's sick,
go from Jadeno Chara. Like, he's not doing that, guys.
Hits it every time. Like he just the perfect tone. He hit it perfectly. Even when he's sick. I saw a question there. I'm not gonna touch. How are you guys enjoying Judd with Brick? I'm gonna leave that be for now. We'll get to that in a bit. Yeah. But practice lines. Practice lines are switched up today.
Like Judd's not the guy doing that, guys.
It's Judd. Effect. Judd's doing it. Judd's covering his mic and then doing the woods. Like Joe Buck at the All-Star game when Joe Buck like announces the starting lineup and is like the play-by-play guy. Bruins practice lines. Thanks to Bell Fraser for tweeting these out. Alex Steves with Lindholm and Geeky. Second line stayed the same with Middlestat, Zaka, and Arvidsson. Huston-Dinoff, Mitten, and Pastrnak. AC Mont with Corrali and Kastelik. And then another little nugget, Aspero with Hampus Lindholm. I like this. This is the time to do it. This is when you shake things up. This is when you go for these changes. Doesn't mean it's absolutely gonna work, but I think it's all you got right now. This is the group you got. You got to roll with it.
Yeah, and like testament to Jonathan Aspero, a guy that before the year we were like, all right, this guy is probably more of a Providence depth guy. Maybe guys get banged up, he draws into the lineup. They've missed him in this lineup since he's been out. Like they've missed. This is gonna age poorly, but like they've missed him in terms of the results more than like McAvoy and Pastrnak as far as their record. They've flatlined since he's been out. I'm not saying he's the key to all of it, but I think when you look at what he brings, right? You can look at the decor, and you got like McAvoy, Zadorov. Lindholm's been struggling, especially with Peak, and that line needs to get broken up. But like Aspero playing kind of a simple, physical brand of hockey. He closes in on skaters quickly. You've kind of missed just that beaten potatoes kind of guy that you don't have to really worry about. He's been solid. Even when McAvoy was out, that top pair when it was Zadorov and Aspero together was money. Like, so, bringing him back in and just his skill set and the fact that now you can kind of spread the wealth and, if he can run with it and all of a sudden like Aspero and Lindholm is a solid pair and it stabilizes Lindholm, who I think struggled as of late. And then again, puts Andrew Peak, who I think is a serviceable, solid third pairing guy. But once you put him on the second pair playing 20 plus minutes a night, that's when he starts getting exposed. That's where you have to change things up. So did not think that was going to be a situation. I saw Jack has a comment, Aspero the savior. pretty surprised. Didn't have that on my bingo card to start the year, but it's a credit to him and a credit to, I think, how much the Bruins miss just a type of player like that, because I think they're 1-5-1, 1-6-1 since he's been out. It's been pretty bad, Evan.
Well, he does. He's very good defensively. I think legitly. Oh my God.
Wow.
A legitimately good defensive defenseman. Wow. JMG Gillis asks, do you guys think the Bruins are exploring extensions with Aspero and Steves? They are with Steves. Yes. I don't know about Aspero. They are with Steves. I would expect that done at some point. Aspero, there is a legit question there of like, is this a guy you want to keep around? Like we talked about Wotherspoon last year, where it's like, it's a nice seventh defenseman, seems to be playing a lot in Pittsburgh. I want to see more of Aspero. I don't know if I'm ready to say like, 3-year deal, lock him up. But if you can get him at a low price, you do have a good amount on the left side. But if he helps you defensively as much as he does, or if you wanted to make him like a permanent 6th or 7th defenseman, I'm fine with that. If that money's what, like 2.5? Is that too much?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what exactly. I'm not even sure what his pay rate would be, but like I think you look at how he fits the system. I think there's a lot of value to what he brings, right? And the only hurdle, right, is you've got not a lot of money, but you've got financial commitments already in place on your third pair. Where like, let's say everyone's healthy, you start the year and it was like Lorai and Yoki Harju, two guys who have had their struggles, right? Who haven't really moved the needle to the degree that you want. And you're committing what? Over $5 million to those two types of players, when it's like, you almost wonder if you were the Bruins, you're trying to like find ways to trim cap space. Like the third pair, if you have like, let's just say like Aspero and like Brunet, two guys that could maybe do the same role for a lot cheaper, right? So that's where it gets tough as far as you've already have committed some money there. But I certainly wouldn't hate it if you have Aspero in place. And if he's like your third pairing guy that just plays that simple brand of hockey, I think he brings a lot of value, and I think you've seen what he's done so far.
Yeah, no, you absolutely have. I want to get into more of where this team's headed. I see Andrew Peak mentioned a little bit. We'll touch on him. We can also do a little bit of World Juniors game today as well. Yep. So if you want to feel good, watch that before the Bruins play the Flames tonight. It's like leads one into the other. So it's kind of a perfect little pregame for the Bruins game tonight. But first, our friends over at PrizePicks. Episodes brought to you by PrizePicks. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard. But in life and on PrizePicks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never stops, and PrizePicks lets you take control. I keep saying, Morgan Geekie goals, David Pastrnak points. Can't go wrong with that. And I do think Jeremy Swayman rebounds. So I like him with saves. There's a new feature. PrizePicks now has early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. You can also find your community on PrizePicks. With the new social feeds feature, you can share PrizePicks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow PrizePicks partners like us and tail or fade our picks with just one click. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Good to be right over there on PrizePicks. So, just real quick, someone asked, do you think the constant injuries this season have messed with the chemistry and what was working up until these last few games? I do think it's hurt, but then without McAvoy and Pastrnak, they were good. I think the real X factor is goaltending. The goaltending has suffered the last couple of weeks. I think that's been one of the big reasons why they've struggled here.
Yeah, I think it's more regression and just because honestly, I think you've seen, you've had injuries, but you've had guys, especially up front, step up when those situations have showed up this season. You've had like Husendinov, first line center. I saw people tweeting at me like, yeah, he's first line center in Providence. He did a pretty damn good job. Like, and he's been a good player when he's been put into elevated roles. You've seen, someone like Alex Steves be back in the lineup and make the most of his opportunity and keep that team afloat. So, yeah, it definitely hurts as far as maybe some cohesion, but everyone's going through injuries at this point. There's a lot of teams that are banged up that are fighting through things and, have been able to stay afloat more than the Bruins have. And I think to your point, it goes to more of like what have been the bigger flaws of this team, which has been a regression in goaltending. And I think more pressing, right, is just the defense has left a lot to be desired. You're giving up way too many grade A chances, way too much quality looks that even if you're doing that to Swayman every single night and you add in the workload, you add in that he was probably overtaxed last week when how they handled his workload, you've got stretches like this where it feels like the Bruins just can't get out of their own way.
Completely. What I wanted to hit on was Andrew Peeke. We've talked a lot throughout this year of like trading Arvidsson, trading Middlestat, Zacco. And then there's always that like, well, Andrew Peake's also a pending UFA. What do you do with him? And you're thin on the right side on D. No question. We talk about this with the draft this upcoming year. Like if you can get in the first round or early in the second, if you can get a big right shot D man who's a right-handed, you're in a good spot. You need that. Your system has like none of that. Andrew Peeke, look, plays a lot of minutes, has struggled at times this year. And you saw that against Buffalo again on Saturday. I don't think he's had the best year. But he is bigger, and right shot D, who are known for their defense, who can kind of solidify a third pair, are typically big assets at the deadline to trade for. The more I think about it, the more I watch them, especially sort of struggle here, the more I'm like, with Yoki Haru locked up, I don't know if you can have both Yoki Haru and Peeke. I would be very intrigued by what you could get for Andrew Peeke at the deadline, because I think it's more than people think.
Yeah, I think you have to look at the other factors. If all things were being equal, I think there's a lot of value in like bringing in Peeke as like your third pairing guy and just leave him alone. But that's not the situation the Bruins have. He's being put into second pair spots. He struggled, I think, in those minutes. And I think the bigger issue is just, as you said, that you have Yoki Haru there. If I had to pick, let's say both Yoki Haru and Peeke were free agents, I'd rather re-sign Peeke for like a third pairing spot and leave him be. And I think he'd bring you value there. But if Yoki Haru's already in that spot, he's already counting against the cap. I don't know if it makes sense to fill up the right side of your defense with, obviously McAvoy, but then Peeke and Yoki Haru for 2 multi-year deals. Like, I don't really like that either. Right. So, I also agree that if you're looking at what you're giving or what you would acquire or what you get for trading him, it's probably more than people expect. People are like, you're going to get a 4th round pick. If you're a team that is looking for just like a third pairing upgrade for a guy that has size, has some physicality, a guy who I thought played pretty well in the playoffs in 24, especially in that Toronto series. They kind of missed him when he was out for a couple of games. I think you get like a pretty solid return for a player. So long story short, if you had 2 roster spots available and you had your third pairing spot up for grabs and you didn't have Yoki Haru, I would sign Peeke, but it's not the case. And I think you'd actually get something pretty good for him if you move him at the deadline.
That's my thing. If Peeke can be your third pairing right shot D and you didn't have Yoki Haru, I'd be like, yeah, extend him. That's fine. That's a good baseline to have. But to be your number 2 right shot D man, I don't see it. Now, I don't know how you're acquiring the real one. I think it's the draft. I think that's your best bet. But for next season, I want to see what he can get. If you can recoup a first or a second and a prospect, like look at what Middlestat, Carlo, Coyle, or not Middlestat, but Coyle, Carlo, and Frederick and those guys got you last year. Like, you sell at the deadline, your teams are going to overpay for your guys, and there's not going to be a ton of sellers. As Kieran Smith says, Peeke for McDavid. Who says no? By the way, you guys in the chat scared the hell out of me with Chinakov. Matrix Mena said trade incoming. Chinakov's incoming. And I'm like, wait, to the Bruins? Like, wait, I'm like looking him up on Elite Prospects. Like, I gotta get all the information down. It looks like he's going to Pittsburgh. So not the Bruins. I thought we were gonna be really on for a trade, which would have been sick. Live already. The viewer count just skyrockets. We'll be just on here for
emails to my editors being like, where the hell are you?
Sorry.
I won't get Duncan as I'm on a live stream. So.
Where is Conor?
Right.
So yeah, Peeke, I think I'm really intrigued to see what he could potentially get you. Again, even if you go out west and have a really good trip and you're in the wild card or you stay 1 point away from that, like I still would lean on the side of dealing him. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. Friendly reminder, make sure to continue to subscribe to Bruins Ringside on YouTube. It's free. We do this all the time. You get notifications. You can always watch our stuff. And of course, if you don't like watching us, you can always listen. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, wherever you get your podcasts from. Lots of other great stuff at CLNS too. They were active yesterday, Patriots Press Pass. They were in New Jersey for the Jets game.
Not New York.
Not New York. That stadium looks awful, by the way. I've never been to MetLife, but I would rather watch a game anywhere else. Oh, and then Celtics All Access Garden Report, they like never stop streaming. They are live streaming like 24 hours a day. It's hilarious. What was I going to say? World Juniors. So, well, actually, there was a question here from Lele Shines. Who on this roster do you guys think is expendable and legitimate trade bait at this point? Like legitimate, I would say peak Arvidsson and Middlestat. Yeah. I don't know if you're dealing Zaka now. You'd have to have your socks blown off for that. And even Middlestat, like where they're at.
Yeah, it's funny how people are like, I'll just like pump and dump to get Middlestat out of here. And I think like, he's been pretty solid for what this team, again, that's not saying like he's off limits, but I do wonder like what his market is for a guy that, whether it's teams that are really just coveting a middle six center or a guy that, has been solid on the wing and could be like a 40, 50 point guy for, making 5.25 million, right, for what his contract is. It's not awful, right? That I do wonder how much teams might pony up to get him, and maybe that changes the Bruins the Bruins approach there. But Middler. Well, like even like Jack D saying like he's no DeBrusque, like it's kind of like the same thing. You're getting like a 40, 50 point guy for around the same thing. And like if someone was to say like Jake DeBrusque was on the market, there's probably a bunch of teams that are like, oh, we'll take that guy. He could be like a 20 goal, 40, 50 point guy. Doesn't mean he's always going to be that, as we saw here in Boston. But if Middlestat's a 40, 50 point player that's under contract for another year at good term, he's still under 30 years old, right? I think you'd actually probably get something pretty good for him. So I'd probably put him as more of in that same boat of like guys that make the most sense to get moved, right? With Peak, Arvidsson. And then I agree, like Zaka's where it gets interesting, right? Where as far as the return, I think you get like a great package of stuff back for him. I kind of compare him to like Brock Nelson, where it's like Colorado gave up their best prospect and a first to get him. Like, and hell, we were talking about before Vancouver imploded in November. We were like, oh, they'll give up like a first, which imagine you had that pick if you're the Bruins, but a first with like Tom Olander or Braden Coots or one of those players. Like all of a sudden, like if you're the Bruins, you're like, we're all set. We got like the top 5 pick. We got another like top 10 pick, and we got like a top 15 pick, if that's what it would be. Not the case now, but that's the one you have to weigh of like, you probably will get a really good return, but also Pavel Zacha is a really good player, a guy that I think has shown that if you're trying to identify the players that are going to emerge from the other side of this retool, rebuild, whatever you want to call it, I think he warrants a spot there. It's just, is the return going to be too much that, yeah, you really like him, you think he's part of this group moving forward, but we still got to look to the future right now. And if he gets us a legit top 10, top 15 pick and a great prospect, then you make that tough call. So that's where I think it gets interesting with a guy like Zacha.
And Zacha's someone who's like kind of part of your core. Like he's there. He's right around.
It's like with the Geekies and Zadorov are like the ancillary, but still a key piece of your group. Like, yeah, you can get a good return for Zacha, but like be pretty good if he was like on a line with James Higgins next year to help him kind of get his footing, right? Like he's a good player. And that's the reason why it's so tough, because you could say he absolutely warrants getting an extension here because he's earned it. He's a 50, 60 point guy that is a bit of a Swiss Army knife, can be on the power play, PK, what have you. But also means if you're just all in on accumulating assets, you're getting a pretty damn good return for a player like that.
You are. Joe Magician's point about Minnesota is interesting. Minnesota does need offensive help, and they've gone all in with Quinn Hughes and Kaprizov and Boldy, and like the pieces are there. You do wonder if they'd overpay for someone like an Arvidsson, or if they would overextend themselves for someone like a Zacha or a Middlestat. I don't know how much they have left to deal.
Quinn Hughes.
But they're a team that I would be definitely looking at. There's a lot of people in these comments who are like, I want the Bruins to extend Zacha. And like, I think
he's a good player.
Like that's the thing.
I think even people who want like the Bruins to sell are like, yeah, we're selling Zacha, but it's only because we're getting a kick-ass return, which I think this would only be the scenario, right? Like, it's not like you're just viewing as a pump and dump thing. It's like, no, this one kind of sucks, but yeah, I think you're getting a really, really good player.
And if you
a really good return.
Yes. If you deal Zacha, it's not guaranteed that you're contending next year. I'm not saying cup contender, but like we consistently think, even if you sold Peak and Arvidsson and maybe even Middlestat, with the prospects coming in and the cap space you have next offseason, you should be able to be in and around the playoff picture next year, and you won't be a like retool team, kind of like a 17-18 type team next year, where it's like you're in and around it, young players, whatever. But if you deal Zaka, that's a different story. Like, I think then you're a little bit deeper in, because that is,
you're missing like a key
piece.
cog to your lineup, right? It's kind of like, even, I know this is going to make the comment section very angry, but it's almost like, the Bruins got a great haul for trading Brendan Kahlo. And I don't think Brendan Kahlo is the same player he once was, but the presence of just a guy that you would dependably put on the second pair has been missed, right? You can say that he's washed or what have you, but I think just having a player that you could plug into the lineup, that you know where he was going to be. Like next year, we're going to assume Pavel Zacha is going to be in a top 6 role, and he's going to do an admirable job. And if you're just trying to fill out your roster as you're waiting for the Hagens and the Zellas and maybe Keaton Verhoff or whoever it may be that you got coming in next year to arrive, I think you're seeing where just the presence of some of those key players have been missed. And I think Zacha is in that same boat. Like, maybe you don't hate it looking back 5 years from now if you're getting, all of a sudden that pick turns into Chase Reed or someone like that. And you're like, holy shit, like what a great deal as far as a gutsy call. But like, what if it ends up being like the 17th overall pick and Zacha goes somewhere and he's not breaks through. He's not a 30-goal guy, but he's a consistent two-way 50, 60-point player. A lot of value in that. And it's not a lot of what you have on this current roster.
I agree. Let's hit World Juniors, because that game's coming up in the next couple hours. Zellers has been the story. Will Zellers, 3 goals in his first 2 games. He's been outstanding. That goal from like below, like low in the zone, that he just freaking potted up where the grandma hides the cookies, and then you've got
the old Sammy Blais shot.
That's right.
That goal. That's right. Montreal. Like, who the hell was that? Is that Caulfield? Oh my God, it's Sammy Blais.
Sammy Blais. Can't forget Sammy Blais. I think Zellers is a really interesting case. I was looking back today, the Athletics preseason prospect rankings, and they had the Bruins somewhere in like the high 20s or low 20s. And Zellers wasn't even in the top 8. Now they did include people in Providence, so there is that caveat. But even if you did, like, to me, Zellers is like your number 2 prospect right now. Like, he is that good. USHL Forward of the Year last year. And there's sort of this hesitation with him. He was drafted out of Shattuck. And so people kind of say, well, can he really continue to score like that at higher levels? And it's a legit question with a kid coming out of U18. You saw it with Letourneau last year. He came out of U18 hockey as well, basically prep school. But Zellers proved it in the USHL. He's proving it at North Dakota, and he's proving it right now. And I think at some point you have to say, well, if he can score like this everywhere, what if he starts scoring like this in the NHL? Like, he's been that good so far in World Juniors.
I feel like he's been like the Bruins prospect equivalent of Morgan Geekie, where everyone's like, well, he's doing well right now, but he can't keep it up. And we're just going to keep on saying that until he scores like, 20 goals as a freshman in North Dakota. We're going to say it next year when he scores 25 at North Dakota, or if he goes pro. I don't think he is, but is it just going to be a thing of like, but until he just keeps on scoring and scoring and scoring. The hardest thing to do is consistently score in hockey. And he's shown, whether it's at the USHL, in college hockey as a freshman. I know he's a little bit older, but still as a freshman, he's produced. And now he's producing at World Juniors. So that's a skill that the Bruins desperately need in their system, right? We're not saying that. I saw someone, it might have been HF boards, they're like, this guy reminds me of Zach Parise. I'm like, I'm not going to go there yet. But if he's like, a Frank Vetrano or Ryan Donato, but a guy that can, took them a while to develop, and they honestly probably hit their stride after they left the Bruins. But if you've got that natural shot and that finishing ability, and he can be like a 20-goal guy in your middle 6, a lot of value to what he'd bring, right? And I think it's just encouraging that, like you're encouraged by what you saw at the USHL. And you expect some growing pains. Have you seen them as far as how he plays? Like, he's not a 200-foot complete player by any means, but dude knows how to shoot. Dude rips it. I think Ty compared him to Craig Smith. Like, dude has never found an angle he won't put a puck on net from. And I think you're seeing him really kind of be a confident, impactful player. There's a guy that almost didn't even make the USA team, and he's been arguably their best player. So what his ceiling is in the NHL, still to be determined. But man, I don't know how you can watch what he's shown since he's arrived in Boston. He lit it up last year with Green Bay when he was there, and now what he's done this entire year, and not think you've got a player on your hands, right? I'm not saying a star, but an NHL player that next couple of years you could pencil into your lineup and can bring you a lot of value. And I think that's encouraging if you're the Bruins.
If Zeller's played like the 70s or 80s, he would have been like the greatest goal scorer ever. Just like shoot from everywhere. Like just firing pucks from every angle. You've always used the Jake Gensel thing with him. Like, what if he and that's a high ceiling, and that we're not saying he's that, but like if he does translate to the
Thompson, we got Jake Gensel,
we got James Higgins as Jack Hughes. Like this team, they're cup winners in 2032. But like, even if he continues to score at this rate, around the 20 goal mark, 25 goals with his skill set, like that's a middle six stalwart. That's a guy you have for a long time. Again, we're getting very ahead of ourselves off of 2 World Junior games, but I still think it's interesting that he's been as good as he is. Now, I do see some other stuff about Letourneau, Mike's good music, talking about how he likes Letourneau quite a bit. Wondering if he should be too. Letourneau's played well enough.
He had another goal yesterday.
I know. In BC's first game back, Letourneau has moved himself into that range of potentially being your number 2 prospect in your system. And like, I think I don't know if the chances are better than not of him, thriving in the NHL, but they're definitely a lot better than they were last year. And I think you're seeing this year of like, he's not just cleaning up rebounds in front of the net because he's big. Like he's creating his own chances. He has a wicked shot. Like there's a lot with him there where it's like, he's still years away, but it's hard not to get excited when you see just how good he's been so far. And we say Tage Thompson a lot, but like what he can be whenever he does arrive in Boston.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're just seeing a player that I think is a lot more confident, a guy that's playing more to his strengths. We've talked about it before of how he looked a lot more confident in knowing kind of how he needs to play his game, with him being such a unique player where he's got that great shot, got those great hands. Yes, he did score twice yesterday, but you saw like during dev camp, right, of him like playing down low. He's got that reach. He's got those hands that can do a lot that not a lot of other skilled players can do. And once he continues to fill out that frame, you've got a player that could be like a matchup nightmare, right? Especially when you look at just how great that shot is. So, yeah, I'm not getting too ahead of myself, right? I think kind of the inverse of what last year was when people were melting down and like ESPN broadcasts were like, the Bruins are screwed. This kid sucks. I was like coming out of nowhere. Like, I'm not going to be like all of a sudden, like, call him up, get ready, sign the ELC, baby. Not doing that. But the fact that he looks like a player that is continuing to progress, a guy that is feeling confident, knowing, how to play to his strengths, I think that's very encouraging for the Bruins as well. And gives you another really intriguing guy that I know people are like, next year we're going to start the year with Higgins, Letourneau, and Zellers all on one line. Like, I don't think we're there yet, but it's just for how barren this team's prospect pipeline has been. The fact that you've got 3 forwards, all with very unique skill sets, high-end skill sets, especially in the offensive zone, that's very encouraging to see.
And think about what their prospect pool is going to look like 6 months from now after the draft. Like, if they make some trades at the deadline, they get
Chase
a couple
Reed,
more picks.
Tynan Lawrence,
Caden Bearhoff. Oh my God.
That humongous Latvian guy who's like, I don't have a favorite hockey player. I just like to hit guys. Welcome to the Bruins, baby.
You're a Bruin, baby. You were born to be a Bruin, man. Put that spoke B on your chest. Yeah. Well, maybe they you don't see Zellers, Letourneau, and maybe those 3 are lifting the cup in June. Maybe that'd be a hell of a story. There was a question earlier from Joseph Farinacci about grade the Charlie Coyle trade. I think that's an A right now. I think you're in a safe spot. Middlestad's giving you more than you thought. You got a draft pick. You've got Zellers out of that. Like, I would say right now that's an A. And Coyle didn't even stay in Colorado. He's now in Columbus. So I put that like
he got traded. And
right?
Again, if he helps you win a cup with Colorado, then yeah, maybe that hurts a little bit, but you still got a great return, so it doesn't really impact what the Bruins got. And also, like, now it's ironic though, he's actually playing really well with Columbus as like a veteran guy on a very young team. I think that's kind of a good spot for him where he's producing, he's getting a lot of minutes, but also he's more of a veteran player there. So I think, yeah, if you're the Bruins, you're maximizing the value of what you got. Even just with Zellers alone, you're getting a lot of value. And Middlestat, again, I think has exceeded a lot of expectations. There's a lot of people who are pretty down on him after last year and didn't show too much, but I give him credit that I think he's been a really solid player for this team so far this year. And again, it makes an interesting conversation is whether you keep him or do you flip him? Because if you do flip him, I think you're getting a good return. Like if you could also have a pretty wacky trade tree off the Coyle deal if you move forward like that.
Yeah, and you deal Middlestat and everything. I do want to hit on Hagens real quick. I think the big thing, you just want to see him produce up there with Zemer and Horkoff on that top line, centering that top line. I think staying at center is a big thing for him. His 2 assists in 2 games, I believe. I just think just more production. That's the thing, like creating more production.
You need like a 3 assist game or something from him, right?
Yeah, you do. And these games coming up should give you a good opportunity for that. So we'll touch on Hagens more going forward, and touch on the World Juniors, as well as we'll see what they do on this trip coming up. Make or break time. Make or break. Conor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, you can read my stuff over the Globe and Boston.com. We have you covered every step of the way this Bruins season. We got features, recaps, columns, breakdowns, analysis. We're doing a lot more look into the Bruins' future with, prospect stories, all that kind of stuff. So please subscribe and follow to those 2 sites. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever it's called these days, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. Thank you to everyone for joining this live. If you didn't, if you're listening after, you Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.